Welcome to Vsb News Online for Tuesday, March 10th. I'm Megan Sutcliffe. The police are reportedly in the process of carrying out a major search for locals involved in child pornography, and rumors are circulating that one of the suspects may be a figure with previous connections to the now-defunct United Bermuda Party. A statement from Acting Assistant Police Commissioner Sean Field Lament says that he can confirm that the Bermuda Police Service is currently conducting an investigation targeting local child pornography offenders. There may be, he says, criminal charges in regard to the illegal use of the internet and possibly pedophile-related charges. Police are actively investigating the matter under Superintendent James Howard and Detective Inspector Mark Clark, and it would be inappropriate to give further details as this may hinder the investigation in its earliest stages. Government's efforts to save $5 million by suspending this year's contribution to the Public Service Superannuation Fund were debated last night in Parliament, with Finance Minister Bob Richards explaining while the long-term liability of the fund was $1.4 billion and the assets were currently $572 million, he needed to ease the strain on the public purse. This left Shadow Finance Minister David Burt to take the déjà vu route.
Government has already started to address the problems associated with the PSSF and also established a pension and benefits working group to assist in this initiative. Mr. Speaker, the latest actuary report of the PSSF was completed as of the 31st of March 2014 and was tabled in this Honorable House this morning. This report indicated that the funded ratio of the PSSF has improved from 33.4% in 2012 to 41.4% in 2014. This was mainly due to the suspension of the COLA clause. The risks posed by the deficit and the public debt threaten the welfare of all sectors, and the partial suspension of government's matching contribution to the PSSF provides short-term relief towards government's deficit reduction plans. Mr. Speaker, in closing, I wish to assure current and future pensioners and the general Bermuda population that the government is sensitive to the challenges facing pension plans of this nature and will continue to monitor the financial position of the fund to ensure that the fund remains viable in the long term.
And what a difference 3 years makes. Because I remember that when the former government brought a temporary suspension of funds to the PSSF, it was not supported by the then One Bermuda Alliance opposition. And some of the things that were said on that day was, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, "We have this because the government needs money to operate. So on principle, we feel that pension funds should not be interfered with, should we say, because of lack of operating funds by the government." End quote. And that was none other than the Honorable Minister of Finance in 2012. However, 3 years later, he is coming to the same Parliament, sitting on the other side, and saying exactly the opposite of what he said 3 years ago.
Age Concern is prepared to use its position on the new Seniors Advisory Council to bring about solutions to long-term care of seniors. But Director Claudette Fleming is hoping that the new council will not emulate previous advisory councils and become a group of talking heads. The crisis is too serious for that, she says.
I think the hospital made a decision that most of us are in agreement with, that it is an acute care facility. But at the same time, the long-term care facility that was attached to the hospital disappeared. So those things happening in tandem were not complementary to one another.
No, it wasn't clever.
No. And so we saw this coming. We saw a hospital that was going to be filled with older people because the hospital had, the bulk of people had 77 beds at one point. Now the continuing care unit is still available, but it's available at cost. Okay, it's at cost, and that's several $1,000s. The average person cannot afford that. and some of the community places, if you can get in them because there are waiting lists, are cheaper. When we talk about the aid subsidy and that cost, you've got to remember, if thinking about saving that cost, the question is who saves? Perhaps in the short term, the government will save. In the long term, will we save? As older people, everybody past 65, and then I think it's 80, there's another rate, has access to that aid subsidy. So you get covered if should you go into the hospital for that aid subsidy. Your insurance premiums are based on the fact that you have that aid subsidy. If that aid subsidy was to be taken away, your premiums will go up because there will be more of a responsibility on your insurer to cover it. Tremendous ripple effects for everyone who is insured, not just older people. So we have to understand when statements like that are being made, the implications and the ripple effect throughout the community of what could happen. The issue is there a will for something to be done? Because what we're not prepared to do is be talking heads and just talk in a circle and not achieve anything. If there is a genuine interest in making a change, then we want to be at the table. If we bring value to that table, there are a lot of stakeholders, and seniors are one. Families are another. Families need to be at the table. We have got to listen. Where are the voice of families? We hear the policymakers talking. What are the families saying? What pressures are they facing? Then there's the actual service providers. I'd be interested in what the community nurses have to say. What are they finding out there in the community? So there's so many voices. We're the advocates, and we will speak to the issues. But there are actually people who are in the trenches who are doing the work that can help us to navigate to a better place, and we need to be listening to those people.
The Public Transportation Division of the BIU has yet to vote on whether or not it is willing to accept time and a half for overtime, because, in the words of President Chris Ferbert, the rest of the civil service is not being asked to make the same cost-cutting move.
We have a situation in front of us at present that's very concerning, so much so we reached out to the minister when we were having these council runs, very concerned about how we can get it sorted out. And it certainly doesn't help when, the leadership or the BIU has to go to its members to ask them to give up a concession in the CBA when you heard an announcement last week Wednesday in the House of Assembly that the government overspent our budget by $23 million. That's not very pleasant when I'm going to go as the leader of the BIU to try to get my members to work double time for time and a half. And I know certain members of the public are going to take pot shots at us because they, what's the problem? You're still getting premium time. But I think that I want the country to at least pay attention to exactly what's taking place here. I think the concerns that the members at DPT have are legitimate concerns in respect to this is going across the whole of government. And if so, why not? And even though I put the suggestion out there that maybe we can have a conversation with the operators about working double time for time and a half, I made it crystal clear to the minister, that's still got to be approved by the membership. I've said it on at least 4 different occasions in 4 different forums. I know also on at least 3 different talk shows saying that that the overtime for double time for time and a half would have to be approved by the membership. So having said that, the membership yesterday, and even though I sense, the concerns about giving up, recognizing that it wasn't going across the whole of government, I decided as the leader that I wouldn't put it to them about double time for overtime. I withdrew it. Since I put it on the table first to the minister, I withdrew it. Even though he conceded and gave the time and a half for double time, I took it off the table yesterday and didn't allow the membership to vote on it. So if the public wants to hold me at ransom for that, they can please themselves. But I felt that instead of dividing my membership, I saw the need for me as the leader to take that off the table and not have a vote on double time for time and a half, recognizing that it's not going across the whole of government.
We'll be back with more news right after this.
In an effort to make Bermuda's roads safer, and in partnership with Bermuda Police Service and the Bermuda Road Safety Council, Defense Broadcasting is launching a safe driving campaign. Complete with thumb bands, come into Defense Broadcasting and 94 Reed Street and make the commitment to drive safer and slower for yourself. Your voice could be featured on the radio. Get yourself a thumb band as a reminder of your commitment to drive safer and with fewer distractions. While you're at it, why not get one for someone in your life who also needs a reminder that our roads do not discriminate. They can take anyone's life. Let's drive safe, Bermuda, and arrive alive. Peace and love. Safe journeys.
Although being given 5 hours for debate, the Ministry of National Security's budget managed to sail through Parliament without having to face too much turbulence. But Premier and Minister of National Defense Michael Dunkley feels that the issues were important, and he agreed to talk about them with Vsb News' Brian Darby.
I'm pleased to see that the ministry has continued to make strides in working with the police to give them the resources they need to continue to make Bermuda safer, and I think we have seen significant improvement in that area. Obviously, when it comes to gangs and guns, we still have work to do, but we see the shooting quieten down and then it flares up. So we are making progress because we are having the quiet periods. Now we need to make those quiet periods longer and more sustainable, and we'll continue to work on the programs to not only support the police but have the front end and the back end, which I've talked about now for a couple of years. So we're actually this year, one of our emphases will be, Brian, is to put together the call-in part of that program, and there'll be more announced on that in the coming months. Within the ministry, we've also continued to focus in on the next step as far as the great educational programs in the school and taking that to the middle schools. We've done a great deal amount of work within other departments within the ministry as well. For example, in corrections, I was very pleased to be able to highlight the numbers of people incarcerated and our recidivism rate. The past 6 months or 9 months, I've noticed a real downturn in the number of people incarcerated. I put it down to a number of things, but perhaps more importantly is the electronic monitoring devices are starting to really show their effectiveness. So much so, Brian, that you probably heard at the end of last year, there was a shortage of those devices. We have a certain amount within the system to be used, and they were maxed out. We're going to look at supplementing that with more numbers available for whether it be the courts, whether it be parole board, or whoever to use them. But at the same time, when we do that, we want to make sure that they're being used in the most effective way, not just being slapped on somebody who might not need one or who might not be deserving of one. So I think if we take that approach, we can better attack what we want to do in changing the behavior of our people rather than keeping them locked up. So we've seen corrections. Last Friday when I checked, there was probably just over 200 people incarcerated, which is about a 60%, if you want to put it, occupancy rate, the lowest we've had for some time. So it is working. We need to continue to move in that right direction. We've seen recidivism levels come down to what I would consider to be very low levels. You can measure recidivism in a 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year rate. The 3 year rate is the one that's referred to mostly throughout the world where they measure that, and our 3 year rate is just over 21%, which is pretty amazing. So it means that we are going the right direction. We are getting some things done, but we still have a lot more work to do. We need to continue to improve programs within our system. We need to continue to make sure the programs are more effective and get the individuals involved in those programs as much as we can. So there was a lot to report. I found the debate very helpful. The opposition had some good questions and some good comments. I thought it was a very productive debate.
Opposition Senator Mark Daniels claimed that the government had spent $1.5 million on legal fees concerning the waterfront arbitration was rubbished overnight by Home Affairs Minister Senator Michael Fay. Regretting the inflammatory and speculative nature of the remarks, Minister Fay said that a supplementary request for the previous financial year would, if approved, go towards a number of legal issues, and that only half have been spent so far. Brian Darby reads his statement.
Mr. Fahey said, contrary to the opposition senator's statement, the ministry has not spent $1.5 million to obtain advice on ending the waterfront lease. Such assertions are completely misleading and false. Fees have been spent on overseas counsel, expert advice, preparation of pleadings, witness statements, and other litigation expenses. To date, less than half the requested amount has been spent. It is quite regrettable, as Senator Daniels should know better than to issue such an inflammatory and speculative statement, particularly when the matter is scheduled to be debated in the House and Senate during the budget. This measure is designed to cover legal fees expended and fees possibly to be expended in respect of the waterfront arbitration. A small portion of the requested allocation relates to funding a guarantee through the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation. The supplementary request is based on best estimates, and the fee request and billings to date are vetted by the Attorney General's chambers.
And now we turn to Earl Baisden with the latest from the sports desk.
Fired. That's how it was described as federal marshals seized America's Cup champion Orco Team USA's prototype boat in San Francisco yesterday before it could be shipped to Bermuda. This in response to a lawsuit filed by a fired sailor. Marshals went to the team base at Pier 80 and determined that the souped-up 45-foot catamaran and its various components and wing seal were in 3 shipped containers ready to head to Bermuda. Turning to futsal action, the match of the season saw fans treated to a nail-biter as the CP Chicas coach Peter Ricards had his team playing a superb tactical formation and strategy in the first half to frustrate the PHC Lady Zebras on Saturday night inside the Work Academy gymnasium. The CP Chicas had multiple chances to build up a commanding lead as they had PHC at their mercy early in the game. However, poor finishing could come back to haunt them as they held a 2-1 lead at the end of the first half. The second half saw PHC Lady Zebras slowly come into the game, and once again, poor finishing from the CP Chicas gave PHC the momentum to come from behind and take control of the match. Aaliyah Nolan and Jessica Furtado led PHC with outstanding performances. Nolan scored a contender for the goal of the season in the second half from such an impossible angle that ripped the back of the net, leaving the CP Chicas goalkeeper no chance. At the end, PHC scored 3 more times in the second half and restricted the CP Chicas to 1 goal in the second half to win the game 4-3. Nolan scored a hat trick to lead the PHC Lady Zebras, with Furtado adding the other. Cliché, Virgil Darrell, Hannah Bushner, and Shantae Todd all scored a goal each for the CP Chicas. The 2015 Dash at Dark event took place at the National Sports Center, Northfield, on Friday evening. In the boys' 10-12 race was won by Kazai Seeley, who crossed the line in a time of 5:36. Charlie Riker finished second in a time of 5:37, and with a time of 5:39, Josiah King finished third. Jesse Marshall won the girls' 10-12 age group race with a time of 6:03. Tasia Malay Astwood finished second in a time of 6:07, and Jade Johnston finished third in a time of 6:13. In the girls' 8-9 age group was won by Maisha Sharif with a time of 6:39. Asia Leigh Hollis finished second in a time of 6:41, and Adriana Argent finished third in a time of 6:58. Jason Simons won the boys' 8-9 age group race with a time of 6:08. Paris Mitchell Robinson finished second with a time of 6:14, and Jake Brislane finished third in a time of 6:15. Turning to netball. In the under-16 division, the Young Men's Social Club Bluebirds Juniors defeated PHC 33-8. The Signwork Nets Whites team defeated Young Men's Social Club Bluebird Youngins 28-10. Norfolk Lady Rams edged the Data Tech Nets Green 13-12. Danielle Rayner scored 52 goals in senior league play to lead the Young Men's Social Club Lady Bluebirds to a 72-40 win over the Signwork Nets. Fresh off winning the Bermuda Amateur Match Play Championships at the Mid-Ocean Golf Course, Ebony Burgess chipped in with 12 goals, and Arkita Fubla scored 4 times. Denori Robinson scored 37 goals for the Signwork Nets, while Amali Smith scored 3 times. Young Men's Social Club Blazing Bluebirds defeated the WWC Pink Panthers 38-32. Frederica Samuels led the Young Men's Social Club Blazing Bluebirds to victory with 32 goals, while Imani Smith added 6 goals. Nikita Truck and Dorica Simon scored 16 goals each for the WWC Pink Panthers. In women's division hockey action, the Wildcats defeated the Budgies 2-0. Tristan Tucker gave the Wildcats the lead with a field goal in the 10th minute, and Zena Jones doubled the lead with a field goal in the 67th minute. Emma Simmons put the Ravens in front in their match against the Canaries when she scored a field goal in the 9th minute. Jessica Hollis doubled the lead for the Ravens when she scored from a penalty corner. Simmons made it 3-0 to the Ravens over the Canaries in the 43rd minute when she scored her second field goal of the day, and Sophia Schwartzel scored a field goal in the 49th minute to earn the Ravens a 4-0 win over the Canaries. Members of the Bermuda senior gymnastics team traveled to Canada for the 24th annual Gymnics International Classic. Along with gymnasts from Canada, Mexico, Italy, Russia, USA, Switzerland, Sweden, and Cayman Islands, Bermuda took to the floor. Tabitha Hawthines, Gabby Vincent, Sydney Mason, Zante Dill, and Danielle Wall competed in the provincial senior division, while Anna Francoeur was in the novice age group. Team captain Hawthines, coming off a win at the Chicago-style Invitational 3 weeks ago, continued her dominance on the vault, scoring a 13.85 for the gold medal. She finished 20th all around with 45.5. Wall was also successful on the vaulting, scoring a 13.3 for 8th place overall. Mason had a solid all-round performance, earning a personal best score of 46.55, finishing 18th. Dill finished just out of the awards on the beam with a score of 11.95, finishing 10th. Rounding out the senior squad was Vincent, who finished 25th with a 42.6. In the novice division, Frank Kurf earned a 43.35 to finish in 20th place. The Bermuda motocross racing season continued with racing at the Motorsports Park. Rajay Ritter won the 50cc class on the day with 3 wins. Janaze James finished second 3 times. Zeno Tucker recorded 2 wins in the 65cc class. Tucker also recorded a second-place finish. Moses Johnson finished second after finishing twice second place and picking up 1 win. Lazai Otterbridge won the 85cc class on the day with 2 wins, while Corey Smith finished second 3 times. I'm Earl Baisden reporting for VSB Sports.
Looking at the weather for Wednesday, March 11th, it will be partly cloudy with increasing clouds overnight. Winds will be south-southwesterly moderate, veering westerly moderate overnight. We are expecting a high near 74 degrees and a low near 65. This weather forecast is courtesy of the Bermuda Weather Service. Thanks for watching VSB News Online for Tuesday, March 10th. I'm Megan Sutcliffe.